ain't eating pussy. Does he eat your pussy? He doesn't. Nah, you lying. He don't eat your pussy? I'm sorry, boo-boo. Dude, I'm the kind of dude, I'll park outside your house. When you go to work, I'll eat you at the house alone. Man, eating pussy is the best damn thing in the world, man. Shit, keep your weight down. It will. It'll keep the weight off you, man. But ladies, do us a favor. We'll eat your pussy, but cut your yard. Trim your goddamn edges. It's already hard enough to find that little spot with all that shrubbery in the way. I went down with this girl, man. Fuck around, got a straight hair caught in my throat. Walked around for 2 weeks, sounded like I was catching a cold. I had to gargle with a hot oil treatment. Get that shit to go down. You ever been watching porn with your girl and they doing some real freaky shit? I'm just like go off topic now, but they been doing some real freaky shit, and you try it with your girl, trying to break her back, right? I was watching porn with my wife the other night, and I forgot she had a cold, right? And we were watching Pinky. I don't know if y'all know Pinky with the big booty, and she do all this crazy shit. And Pinky was and slobbering. She spit on the dude's dick. I looked at my wife, ooh, can you do that? And she said, okay, I'll try. I'll do anything for you, baby. I'll try. My wife went in. And then I forgot she had a cold, and she hustled some of that film. And I got all this green shit on my dick. And she just rubbed it in. And she did it. I said, don't stop, shit. We in it now, we in it. And just that quick, I call her cold. Just that fucking quick. Hot cold, she's all over the motherfucker. And then she said, do me from behind, baby. I'm like, all right. You know I done caught you cold now.
Thank you for coming in tonight. Thank you for joining us tonight on live. It's going to be a great show. We have a great guest today. We have a very special guest. To my left, before I introduce him, I just want to say to all the viewers out there, thank you for supporting the Suit Up program. The Suit Up program is a program for young people in San Antonio and in Rockport, Texas. We do mentorship and job training, and we also work with adults. The Suit Up program has been around for the last 10 years, and we're going to be around for a lot more years. And we just want to say thank you to all of our supporters, all of our sponsors, and everybody who makes this program what it is. And if you are a mentor or an organization, get in contact with us. You can call us at 210-620-1566, or you can reach us on our website, www.suituptheworld.com. That's www.suituptheworld.com. I want to tell everybody thank you. Thank you so much for making the Funny Business Comedy Cypher a success. The last comics that we had on, they were great. We had great rapport, and we're going to keep this thing rolling. This is all about comedy and the business of comedy. And who doesn't like comedy? Who doesn't like to laugh? And being in this space, it's an honor and a privilege to be sitting down with these comics and bringing quality entertainment to the public. So moving further along, I'm going to start my first guest. I'm going to start with my guest. He's my only guest tonight. This man has been in the comedy game since the 90s. I've looked at a few of his sets and I was rolling. I put him up there with a lot of the old school greats. And I really believe that this brother here has not only comedic knowledge, He also has knowledge about the business of comedy. And we're going to talk to him all about that. And he also got a few things, he wants to get off his chest. And, we're going to, at the Funny Business Comedy Show, we always give people the opportunity to have the platform to speak about the business of comedy and talk about the things that they're doing. So without further ado or delay, I want to bring on my guest, AD Snipes.
Hey, thank you, Walter. Nice to meet you, man. Thank you for having me here. Man, oh man, I was tuned in 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was sitting back, eating some cheese puffs, just relaxing on a Friday night, watching my fellow comedians do their thing, and I heard my name. And I was like, oh my stars.
All right, so you heard your name on there.
Right.
And we know the comment, what they said. We're going to get into all that.
Right.
And more. But first, before we get into that, what we want to do is introduce you to the public.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who know you. You've done everything from Laugh Out Loud. You've done Midtown. You traveled with the greats, Cat Williams, Bernie Mac, just to name a few.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't really know who AD Snipes is. And what we're going to do, we're going to start right there. Who is AD Snipes and what brought you to comedy?
Okay, so AD Snipes is a young man from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Born mid-70s. Was in Philly for about 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
My parents migrated to Memphis. I hate Memphis.
Why you hate Memphis?
Memphis is not diverse.
It's not?
It's not.
With all those black people there?
It's either all black
Mm-hmm.
or it's all white.
Okay.
There's no mixing.
So what part of Memphis did you grow up in?
Whitehaven.
Whitehaven.
Whitehaven is on the south side of Memphis. And so with that being said, man, it was grew up in the projects.
Okay.
Just like many people, right?
Okay.
Growing up in the projects, it was not easy,
Mm-hmm.
right? But, at the end of the day, my mom said, you're going to be the best or the greatest project from the projects.
Did you start your comedy in Memphis?
I started my comedy in Memphis in 1995.
Wow, 1995. So you've been in comedy going on 30 years now, 28 years?
I'm in my 28th season, is what I like to say.
Okay, so when you first started in Memphis, what was the comedy scene back then?
So great question. So, do you know when the great comedy era was? The greatest comedy era was?
I believe it's from 92 to 2002.
Correct. So from 92 to 2002 was the greatest span of 10 years of comedy ever seen, right?
And why do you say that?
Because you had all the people who are goats now
Mm-hmm.
were not goats.
Like who? Name some goats.
Bernie Mac wasn't a goat then.
Okay.
Sayed wasn't a goat.
Okay.
DL wasn't a goat.
You consider
Smiley
DL
wasn't a
the goat?
goat. Huh?
You consider DL the goat?
I consider
Longevity.
longevity.
Okay.
You can still put people in the seats. You can still, you're funny and you're relative, right? Earthquake. Bruce.
Yeah.
All these guys.
Yeah.
That was my first level of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But then we had the big three. I got to shout this out. The big three of Memphis,
Mm-hmm.
which was Lester Bibbs, Tony Tone,
Mm-hmm.
and my main man Prescott. Prescott was my man.
I remember Prescott. Oh, okay. So were they the only ones in that scene during that time, as far as the Memphis scene, that they was the ones controlling?
They were the main ones on the black side. So we were at the Comedy Zone.
Okay.
So the Comedy Zone was a white club. It's called an A-list club.
Okay.
And we were in there. They didn't have a black night.
Okay.
They just booked who was hot.
Okay.
And so I had a front line the first time I saw TK.
Mm-hmm.
It
TK Kirkland?
Yes,
Okay.
blew my mind. This is like 95, 96, man.
Mm-hmm.
So all the stuff y'all seeing him do is just elevated from there, man.
How was he back then? Because I see him a lot on YouTube.
He was a lot more raw.
He was?
A lot more raw.
Okay. I like TK.
So you asked the question, what got me into comedy? Two things. Money and pussy.
So explain those two motivators.
So the two things I saw when I was in the back of the club watching these guys, whether it was DL, Sid, or Steve, and many others, it was so many women.
Mm-hmm.
at the show, and you don't understand when a woman gets dressed up to come laugh. Yeah, that's an amazing thing. And I was sitting there going, I want that one day. I want that one day. Because, you know, when you're in a club and 85% of the club are female, well, you got to understand the dynamic of laughter. Right. Because laughter makes a woman wet. Yeah. It releases what the pheromones. Yeah, the pheromones. But laughter makes a man soft. Explain that one. Well, that's because you messing around with your wife, you trying to get something at night, and she start playing. What's the first thing you say? Stop playing. Stop playing. Stop playing. I'm trying to get something. Exactly. Right. No, man don't want no silly woman. You ain't never heard no man say, man, I want a girl that can just make me laugh. So if you having sex with a girl in bed, she starts giggling, that's a problem for you? I wouldn't know nothing about that. I wouldn't know nothing about that. Would you have a problem with that if you was having sex with a girl and she started giggling? Or put something in her mouth. That's all I would do. Go on, man. All right, you started in Memphis. What got you moving around in comedy to where you ended up coming to San Antonio? Well, there's this place called 201 Poplar. It's kind of like 200 North Canal here. So you think you know what I'm talking about, right? I know. And so I was on what you would call paperwork. They said I had a gun on me. They said it. They said I had a gun on me. And then I had a double A charge, aggravated assault. Right? Yeah. And so I had a good lawyer. We were able to get all that minimized, but I was on paper. So I had to wait for that paper to expire. The moment it expired, you was out of there. I was out of there. So that happened in Memphis. That happened in Memphis. Oh yeah, you definitely had to get out of Memphis. I had to get out of Memphis, man, because I had my best buddy, man. God bless him. I love him so much, but he was just trouble. Oh yeah, he was just trouble. He was just, he meant good, but he looked for trouble. How old were you back during that time? I was 29, 28. Yeah. So, okay, so you got into some trouble in Memphis. You had to get up out of there. Okay, why San Antonio? Great question. It was actually a choice between Chandler, Arizona, and San Antonio. Where's Chandler at? Chandler, Arizona is in North Arizona. So it's not Phoenix? Right outside of Phoenix. Oh, right outside of Phoenix. Yes, it's suburb of Phoenix. And so I was booked in River Center Comedy Club, and I was booked in Chandler. Okay. When I was booked in River Center, I was walking around in between shows, and I didn't see no ugly women. Oh, yeah. And I was like, I'm home. Yeah. Now, they didn't tell me the ugly women didn't come downtown. Soon as I got off of 410 and Parabito was ugly. Hey, north side, come on, northeast, come on, man. Let me hear something, man. It's all good, baby. Parabito. So you're here in San Antonio. You're pretty new to the comedy scene. Who's one of the first comics you met here? One of the first comics I met here was a gentleman by the name of Chris Duell. Chris Duell, oh, the one who used to be on the radio. The one to be on the radio. Yeah, I know Chris Duell. Chris Duell was just making his hay back then in 97, 98. Okay. So Chris Duell, Matt Golightly, John Stringer, Two White Boys, Klecto Rodriguez, Quinn Hudson, and my favorite nemesis, my boy, Walter Campbell. Walter Campbell. He used to book all the comedy shows. Yes, on the military base. Exactly. Me and Walter had a battle of all battles in Victoria, Texas one night. Oh, yeah? Oh, my God. Tell me about that. So it was a comedy contest. Vance, the guy that you had on, who was sitting in the corner. Vance Rapper, the one that looked like Ronnie Lott when he took his helmet off. Right? So Vance was the one that put that together. It was me, Klecto, Quinn. It was a lot of us. Shout out to Klecto. Yeah, Klecto was my dog, man. I talked to him the other night, man. Shout out, Klecto. Hopefully your health is improving, man. Shout out to Walter Campbell, too. Yeah, Walter's my dog, man. But put this great show together, right? And I don't know what the prize was, but it ended up being in between me and Walter, man. And they had a strict time limit. What time? Like you had like 7 minutes to do your thing, right? Is that enough time for a comic? No, because it was 3 different segments. Okay. So you couldn't repeat the same material. You were going through phases, right? Okay. So it ended up being me and him. We got to the very end, and my man went over on his time. What? He went over, but he killed it. So what they do? He killed it. They was giving him a trophy. I was like, time out. Oh no, he went over. He went over. Come on. So we had this big brouhaha. his wife got in my face. I mean, it was heavy.
She got in your face.
She was standing up for a guy.
Oh, because
because he had killed that shit. I ain't gonna lie. He won that shit. But did he?
But it was technically.
Technically. So I think I don't remember exactly. I think they ended up splitting the purse.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Walter, let me know if I'm wrong.
So,
he'll call me, let me know if I'm wrong.
So what is Walter Campbell doing right now?
Walter is retired, I believe.
Really? He's been in the game.
I think he's back up on the East Coast. He's in Baltimore or Maryland somewhere. Yeah. I think him and his wife is still doing good, man.
Was y'all did y'all get in the game at the same time? You and him?
So I don't know when he got in the game.
Because you 90s. You 95.
90s. Yeah,
right?
but he was already here. When I got here.
Doing comedy?
Yeah, he was already doing. He was when I went to the River City. We had this thing called the Midnight Show, Midnight Madness.
Yeah.
That's when you can be as raw as you want it to be. Mm-hmm. You see my comedy. Exactly. That fits my niche, so that helped me build my brand. Right. Because nobody was going to be as raunchy as me. Right. But when I saw that dude's stage presence, I saw how he controlled the stage, and remember at that club there was no home crowd. It was all tourists. Right. So it wasn't an East Side, West Side. You know, it was a free show. So he was really professional up there. Yes. Okay. He was very professional. So I was realizing I gotta step my game up. Right. I can't be up here in t-shirts and tennies and looking like I don't care. Okay. What's going to help me stand out? Okay. So I shout out to Walter for giving me that on that stage presence. So what we're going to do, I want you to hold that, but what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and take a break. Okay. We're going to do a commercial break, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to talk about something that a comic said about you, and I'm going to give you a chance to respond to that. So this is the Funny Business. This is special guest AD Snipes. We will be right back, and y'all just sit back and chill. We'll be back. Alvin, give us your story of how you came into comedy.
I was hating.
You was hating?
Yep.
Hating on who?
Might have been. I mean, it was a couple of comedians on that show that night. I ain't gonna name them because then they could be in their feelings.
Name them.
But Snipes was one of them, I believe. What's the guy? Buddha, Jeff Elliott. And I think Snipes might have been on the other side. I don't think Snipes was on the show. But anyways, to me, they wasn't funny. You know what I'm saying? Wow. And Buddha hadn't even performed yet, so I don't want to say Buddha. But the people that was performing, to me, they wasn't funny. You know what I'm saying? And that's because I didn't understand comedy, but they wasn't funny to me. So I'm like, I'm funnier than these guys. So I tell little Randy, Cliff was hosting that night. I say, man, let me get up there and do some comedy. So he finally came and got me. He was like, all right, man, don't disappoint me. So I knew my audience for one, so it was easy for me to cater to them. Yeah. And then I love the laughter and stuff like that. It's euphoric. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to keep on doing that, and I've been here ever since.
Just a while ago, we were just talking about how he got into comedy, how he landed up in San Antonio, some of the comics that he ran into. But we're gonna shift gears real quick. I know during the break, y'all saw a clip from last show, and the last show I had 4 comics here plus a manager of comedy, and I had the comedian Alvin Perry, Clifton Simmons. I had King Quasi on there, and I had Ray Sorrell. I keep saying I'm getting ready to say Can't Get Right. I always think Can't Get Right, and I had Ray Can't Get Right Sorrell on here, and there was some comment. We was talking about comics and just like everybody's adventures into comedy, and there was a comment that was made by Alvin about AD Snipes, about him not really being funny, and I want to give AD Snipes a chance to respond to that because I just feel like this platform, this is not a platform of negativity, right? We don't want to do that. What we want to do is create a safe space and a space for comics to speak their mind and talk about the business of comedy, but also to speak about things that, somebody made a comment about him. So we like to give people the opportunity and the space to respond to things. And, I want to give AD the chance to speak about what he thought in that moment when he heard his name. Now, you heard Alvin.
Right.
Basically, you know, he used the term he didn't think it was really funny.
Right.
When I talked to him, he said it wasn't really like that. However, you know, you can't tell a person who felt offended how to feel or what to think. So I'm not going to assume anything. So I'm going to give you the floor to talk about that moment and then whatever it is you want to say concerning that.
Okay, so let's put some contexture around that. First of all, I was kind of confused because you had a panel on comedians, but there was nobody laughing.
Oh,
so the tension in the room was paramount. So I'm trying to figure out: am I watching one of them reality show recaps? Like, why is it like what do they call the basketball wives?
You saw tension in the room?
I saw it. I know.
You felt the tension through the screen.
Through the screen. I know the only guy on that panel that I have not worked with was Quasi.
Okay.
That's the only guy. I've been to 2 shows where I saw Quasi.
Mm-hmm.
He's a phenomenal talent, awesome stage presence.
Yeah.
But everybody else in that room. So when it comes to your brother, I've actually put your brother on 10 shows. Mm-hmm. But why were you never at any of those shows?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
I don't know.
You don't support your brother?
Yeah.
You do, but you didn't do the times that
I don't go to all these shows.
Okay. Tell me your favorite joke by your brother.
I don't know his favorite joke. I don't know all his jokes.
No, tell me your favorite joke by your brother.
When you talk about my grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
any jokes about my grandmother is funny.
That's very funny.
Any jokes about that, any jokes about how he grows up, those are funny jokes. Now, as far as his new material, the last show I went to, it's been about a year. It's been about a year. And a lot of it got to do with, I'm no longer in San Antonio. But when I was here, I wasn't going as much.
Right.
I wasn't.
Okay. And this is why I asked, because one of the hardest thing in this city, not just this city, but all cities, is to get your people
to show
to come out and support, right? And so when I put my shows on, there's a couple of ways comics can get paid. I always say, what's your rate? You tell me your rate. Now, here's the thing about San Antonio. San Antonio comics won't tell you how much they get paid.
What's the going rate here for comics here? That you know?
I know the rates. The problem with the rates are, let's stop with the rates before I go there.
Okay.
Let's talk about the general comedy scene, right?
Okay.
So do you know how many comedy clubs there are in America?
No, I don't.
It's about 1,600.
Damn.
Do you know how many comedians there are in America?
No.
Over 13,660.
That sound like rappers.
Now, of that 13,660, what percentage would you say are black?
Damn, I would say over 50%.
Only 10%.
Really?
Only 10%.
So with all these black comedians, and it's only 10%. Wow. How did you know that? How do you know that?
I know the game.
You know the game.
I know the game. And so when you think about it, there's more comedians than there are stages.
Yeah.
So what does that breed?
Saturation?
It breeds desperation.
Desperation.
It breeds desperation. So they're desperate to get on any stage they can for any price. So you'll drive 4 or 5 hours to Fort Worth, to Houston, to Beaumont for $200.
When you can basically get that here with the right support.
Right.
More than that here.
Correct.
With the right support.
With the right support.
Right.
And so with that, it feeds that desperation. I just got to be on stage.
Yeah.
So you will see comics who are booked all over the city. Now they've oversaturated themselves.
Yeah.
So now people don't want to come see them because they don't have any new material.
Why don't they have new material?
Because they don't write.
That's your book?
This is my joke book.
You wrote that book?
I didn't write. This is my joke book for 2024. I got one killer joke in here.
Really?
One. I'm gonna do it here.
Who wrote that book?
It's an empty book. It's an empty book for you to write your jokes in.
Where you get that from?
My daughter gave me this for Christmas.
Okay.
This is my 13th one.
Show that to the camera.
Which is the camera right there.
It says, what does that say? The jokes in my head.
The jokes in my head. It's got one joke in there right now. I'm gonna let you tell the joke in a second. I'm gonna make you a comedian.
All right.
And so, with the oversaturation comes the desperation.
Right.
So, comics feel like I think you guys talked about being clicked up, right?
Right.
So shout out to the Loud Pack. You know, Debo, Quasi, your brother, Delisha. Sometimes they're there. This is, I think, their second or third reset of members.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Debo didn't get along back in the day, and
so these are not the original members.
No, not the original members.
Who are the original members?
I don't remember the original members, but they were all funny.
But they had a roster.
They had a roster. My thing is, as an artist, I'm not going to discredit anybody else's art.
Mm-hmm.
My thoughts are my thoughts,
right?
But they don't have to be public,
right?
And that was the concern I had with what your brother said, because it just seemed so displaced. It wasn't a part of the conversation, right? They weren't going around talking about top 5 or not top 5,
right?
It's just Snipes. Yeah, I'm sitting there going, what did I do to this kid? All I did with this kid, and let me stop, because shout out to Miss Faye, shout out to Miss Ebony, his wife. They've been to my shows. Yeah. So I'm never going to say anything disrespectful about your brother.
I appreciate that.
Ever.
I appreciate that.
Because I believe, whether it's his mom, you, his wife, his kids, he deserves respect publicly. He does, right? In fact, when he said it, I sent everybody on the panel a text message.
They didn't tell me that.
I sent everybody on that panel.
What was the response from each person?
They didn't respond in real time because they were on the show.
Right.
Ray responded, Cliff responded, Vance responded. The Loud Pack boys didn't. Now, Quasi and I have never had a conversation, so maybe he didn't recognize the number. Yeah. Quasi, if you had a number that came across and said string a bell, that was me. That was me. Okay.
String a bell.
String a bell.
Oh, okay. So my brother's on the chat right now. He told me to sign him up for the next show. So, and then my homeboy Don, he said, we was at all them spots.
So, when I started here, River Center, remember a club called Prime Time?
Yeah, Prime Time.
Yeah, Prime Time.
Black Mike Club.
Yeah, shout out to Sheila, shout out to Jessica back in the day.
Shout out to Black Mike.
No doubt. Big Dog back. Oh my God.
Right.
Prime Time, Studio with Alvin,
yep.
Tree,
yep.
Avalon,
yeah.
Bar E30 or Bar 360, whatever it was called.
No, it was, I know it's one right there behind North Star.
Yeah. And so, that's the affinity I've had, right? So, and I want to give Clifton, some things Clifton said, because Ray was looking like Junkyard Dog about to jump on Black Ted DiBiase.
Yeah.
With Clifton, right? And I'm sitting there going, Clifton said something, but it wasn't directed at Ray, but Ray is a pit bull. Ray is a pit bull, right? Ray, that's just Ray, right? And I get it. But there's always a place and time for it, right? And that's why you had so much tension, because everybody's jockeying for a position. But they're jockeying for a position, but who are the gatekeepers?
Who are the gatekeepers?
Gatekeepers, well, there's a reason why I haven't been in Laugh Out Loud.
Okay.
There's a reason why I haven't been in Upstage.
Who owns Laugh Out Loud? Who's in charge of Laugh Out Loud?
I can't remember the gentleman's name. It used to be Ruben. But this is when I had my feud. Well, I don't want to say feud. We had a huge disagreement. So in 2015, we did a DVD called Massive Shit. And it was filmed at Laugh Out Loud. So out of my pocket, I spent $1,500 for a professional production.
Okay.
And we had your brother, Bobby Smith, Debo, Alicia, Chandra Murphy, Shauna Bryant, myself, and Anthony Torino on the DVD. And my goal was to give these guys their first professional content that they could sell after the show.
So you pretty much gave them their break.
I'm not going to say it was a break.
A break.
But they had a break in the big club, professionally filmed, that they can sell after the show. Yeah.
And they got an archive that they can show forever.
And the clip that we showed earlier, that was from that show.
Okay.
And
so who was all on that DVD? It was you,
Debo,
your
brother,
my brother, which is
Bobby Smith,
comedian Alvin Perry, Bobby Smith, which I'm gonna have him on in a few weeks.
Right.
Well, he's at Upstage, right?
He's Upstage.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that in
Bobby Smith, Chandra Murphy,
I don't know.
funny Indian guy, Shauna Bryant, Antonio Torino,
I heard
and
that.
myself.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was a successful night. We had about 200, 230 people in there on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Successful.
Yeah.
So I was miffed with the distinction that I got after that from these guys.
You think they should have a lot more camaraderie while we were sitting on the panel, or at least if they felt something, not make it so obvious?
Well, I'm never going to tell another man how to feel.
Right.
But what I would say is, in situations like that, instead of worrying about what somebody else is saying or not saying, if you truly have your own lane, drive that bitch.
Right. Right.
Drive it, right? I know Ray's got his own lane.
Right.
I know Cliff's got his own lane. I know your brother is in a lane with 2 other dudes and they're doing their thing. Shout out to them. Let me show you the kind of guy I am. Even after your brother said what he said, and I know they had a show up in Dallas, Plano area. Yeah. I grabbed the post, I tagged people in Dallas and said, go see these guys. You're going to have a great show.
Well, that's interesting you said that, because one of my questions to the panel was, I said, you know, I talked about the tension. I said, are there any comics that if I was new to San Antonio and I wanted to go see a comic, would you as a comic say, oh, go see AD Snipes, he's doing it tonight, oh, go see this person? Nobody said that. Honestly, nobody said that they would. They kind of.
Right. Everybody, they didn't say it, but here's the thing. Remember what I said earlier, what stage are they going to be on?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got Cliff, who's the open mic king, right?
Right.
He's doing 4 or 5 open mics a week,
right,
and he's doing his thing, right?
Right.
To me, open mics should be paid.
Right.
The club making money.
Yeah.
So not most, but the people that are trying out material should get paid.
Why don't they pay people?
Because the desperation. People,
they see you desperate.
They know you desperate because they know there's more comedians that are on stages. So they know you dying you on that mic, even if it's for 5 minutes. You gonna sit there. You gonna take a drink coupon. You gonna go up there and bomb or whatever you gonna do. But you ain't gonna ask for no money. Snipes asks for money.
Does it take big balls to get up there and to bomb?
To bomb. Good question.
Hold that thought. What we're gonna do? We're gonna take another break, and then we're gonna come back, and then we're gonna talk about the business of comedy. We're gonna get into the numbers, the strategies, and what it takes to make a great comic. So we'll be back in a minute with the Funny Business Comedy Cypher with my man AD Snipes. We live tonight, man. We're really glad, and we will be back in a minute.
That's in the city, but he don't hustle. He don't
You
grind.
say what? Okay.
Blair is damn near top 5 in the city.
Okay,
all day.
Say that sound better.
He damn near.
Yeah.
He could be number 1 in the city.
Shit, you a lie.
You don't fuck with Blair?
No, I'm not saying that, but it's
Blair,
a competitive sport. You're not going to sit in the room with a comic and say another comic is better than him.
Blair go harder than you.
Like, okay,
yes,
check my numbers. Check my numbers. That's
but
all I gotta say.
Blair doesn't.
Comedically, right?
Blair doesn't hustle.
Comedy.
Blair doesn't hustle and grind, and that's why Blair is in the position that he's in.
Okay.
So let me answer the question. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was straight. He don't market. He's a talent. He's a talented writer, but you don't know who he is. Okay. You know what I mean?
He ain't on the scene like us.
He's not on the scene.
Okay. He does shows, but he's just not.
Because
I don't know the brother, but here's my thing. I don't know any comic. I don't know any basketball player. I don't know any boxer that's gonna sit in the room with a person that does what they do and say that somebody else is better than them. That's just not how I'm wired.
Are you saying that?
So if Michael Jordan walked in right now, if Michael Jordan walked in here and said, hey man,
I'm not a basketball player, but any other comic walked in this room and say they better than me, I'm gonna be like, let's hit the stage. That's how confident I am about my shit.
Welcome back to the Funny Business Comedy podcast starring Walter Perry with my special guest AD Snipes. We was just talking about the comics. We was talking about so much dealing with comedy. Right now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna get into the business of comedy. Mr. Snipes has been in the comedy business since 1995, and you know that's back during the golden age of comedy. So what I want to do is talk about the business of comedy.
Okay.
How much a comic's really supposed to be making to really be successful? How many shows you got to do? Give us the do's and don'ts, and give us some words of wisdom about what it takes to be a comic to have longevity in this game.
Wow, that's a great question. So when you really peel it back, you want to be a touring comic. Mm-hmm. And touring means, I'll give you an example. Laugh Out Loud. They have comedians that come in. 90% of the time they're white comedians. 10% of the time it's going to be black, right? They do 6 shows. Okay. They do 1 on Thursday, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. That's 6 shows a week. 52 weeks, it's about 312 shows.
312.
That's a year for a comic on stage.
But it's only 365 days.
Right, but it's 52 weeks. So you only do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you're not doing shows.
Okay, all right.
And Sunday. And you do 1 on Sunday. But the point is, so even though I've been in the game so long, actual stage time, actual on stage time, I'm like 7 years.
Really?
So 7 times 312 is what? I'm messing with your math, right? 2,100.
Yeah.
So I'm up to 2,165 shows.
Total your whole life?
My whole life. So that's 6 or 7 years of actual stage time. That's when you're on the stage holding the mic. Not 30 years, but really, that means you've been on a team for 30 years, but you ain't played in the game but this many years.
So let me ask you this. Have you done a show at least once every year since you've been in comedy? At least one show?
From 98 to 2004, that's when I put in my most work.
Okay.
Because I was able to keep going. I was booked with a comedian named Doug Stanhope. Incredible funny guy, white boy. So I was one of his features, right? And I was able to do that with 4 other comics from 98 to 2002. So I got under my belt all the shows, all the rigmarole of being on the road.
Would you ever admit that another comic is better than you?
Absolutely.
Because that's what the tension was between Ray and Clifton. Clifton had gave a compliment to another comic. Blair
Thompson.
Right.
Blair by far, I'm gonna say this, which is the channel.
Yeah.
Blair by far some of the stiffest competition in this city, because Blair don't give a fuck.
Okay.
Blair built like a Lego block, right? Just a funny looking dude, but his mind,
he's witty.
He's just wisdom witty.
Yeah.
He thinks of shit that you wouldn't think of, and the way his delivery is, you don't see that shit coming.
He's very unique.
He's a person I sit back and I enjoy watching. The problem with comics is when we watch you, we watch to critique.
Why?
That's because it's a competition.
Because look, you're getting ready to go up there to do your jokes. Yep. So why are you being so critical of somebody doing their joke?
You're not.
Comedy is subjective.
The hardest people to make laugh are comics.
Other comics?
They're the hardest to make laugh.
Is it because you hate on another comic?
Not necessarily because you hate. It's because you are thinking about the setup, the premise.
Oh, so you too busy.
You critiquing the process.
Right. So is it like any profession? You're gonna watch,
right?
And see.
So let me ask you a question. How many shows you think your brother does a year?
I said about 10.
You said 10.
I said 10.
And he's been doing comedy in his 11th year.
Yeah, he said he's been doing it since what, 2012?
Right. Yeah. So that puts him at 110 shows
total.
Yeah, if you're doing 10 a year, I know he's doing more than that though.
Yeah.
So my thing is about what he said is I still don't see the barometer of where he can get on any platform and say anything negative about anybody when you don't have the stage time that somebody else has. You're now starting to get it. You're starting to get a few more in-state gigs. But
now,
what have you done outside of Texas?
Now, I know. But I also got to admit, though, I did hear him when he said it. He said that's one of the reasons that got him into comedy. Because he heard other comics and he felt like he could do better.
Right, but the thing was, it was at a comedy competition at the studio. It was set up as a club, and I think it was a Randy, I can't remember Randy's last name.
Payne?
Yeah, Randy Payne.
Casanova.
Shout
out to Casanova.
Clubcast. I ain't seen that dude in quite a while, man. Hopefully he's doing good.
Yeah.
And Alvin, that was his first night that I can remember.
I think I was there.
And yeah, I remember seeing that big ass head there. And he came up, he did his thing, but it was a comedy competition, right?
Right.
And so he was like the intermission.
Right.
While they were doing Italian and all that. I think
Right.
a white boy from New Braunfels won that night. He had this crazy ass joke about Whitney Houston dying.
I think I know.
And he was like, y'all give it up for Whitney Houston. Y'all break out your lighters. Right. And then he said, don't forget the spoon. Right. Kill. Genius writing, right? It was about time. It was about a common topic. And he killed the shit. He won that shit.
So you believe writing really enhances your comedy?
I believe writing is the only thing that's going to enhance it.
The
Now,
only
not,
thing.
not only, but stage presence.
Okay.
How you look.
Okay.
You have to look like somebody a girl wants to fuck.
Right. So
You
your
know-
clothes, like as far as your look, your clothes, your just everything.
Well, think about it like this. We talked about what's the pheromone
Yeah.
for women,
Right.
laughter, right?
Right.
So think about it. If 80% of a club is women,
Yeah.
don't you want to present or project that?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Ain't a whole lot of dudes that unless they came with their girl.
Right.
Or the other comics.
And then they gonna be dressed up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the point really is know your audience that you're trying to target, man. So that was my whole takeaway from your brother's comment was I just don't think he's got the history yet
Right.
to critique anybody.
So for our viewers,
Mm-hmm.
you're not critiquing my brother because you got something against him, right?
I'm not critiquing him at all.
And okay, so this is not coming from a bad place. This is coming from because we talked about this other
Right.
day, and you told me how much love you got for my brother. As far
I'll
as
give you an example, man. One day your brother, this last summer, your brother he's a Facebook post king. He posts like every hour, right?
Yeah.
And he posts something about depression. He was in a dark place or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was chiming and giving the prayer signal. I picked up the phone and called him.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a 30-minute conversation. I'm just making sure his headspace was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got out of his way.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. I have no malicious bone against anybody, man.
How did he receive that when you called him?
At the time, I think he received it well.
Yeah.
Or he hung up and said, this nigga. I don't know which one he received.
So that's interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as comics, how important is comedy to mental health to mental health right now? Because I hear comics say, man, comics are dark. You know, how can you be dark and then try to make other people laugh? Like how can you balance that?
Many years ago, I came up with this saying: laughter is God's lotion for ashy existence. Rub some on you. and with that, I remember when I was on probation and going through anger management, and we all sit in a circle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you've been there too, okay?
Yeah, I've been there.
And
was an old white man in there talking to you?
No, it was an old black dude. But
Okay.
you know, basically the circle's formed.
Right.
And before we start, I walk in the room, guys sitting here, I just say, hey, what's up? This motherfucker went off. He said, what's up with the what's up, nigga? What's up with the... This nigga was mad. This when I realized I had nothing to be angry about.
Right.
This nigga needs some help.
Yeah.
I would never speak to this nigga. So you never, but the thing is, you never know what somebody's going through,
Yeah.
right? And I don't think your brother had any ill will. I just don't think he formulated what he was trying to say because what he said just came off as blank ain't funny. So that's what I heard. I didn't hear anything else.
Right. Because he mentioned you and he mentioned another comic. I always know the other comic's name.
But my thing is, why mention anybody?
I mention anybody. Yeah. And I understand that. And for me, what is it about when they was up here, that tension between Ray and Clinton, right?
Right.
And that goes back to, do you think another comic is funnier than you? Is it improper to say things like that? Hey man, that guy's funnier than me. Or hey man, you know, I can learn from this guy. Or hey man, you know, I think this guy's funnier than you.
Well, think about it. Like when you watch porn, you know if that dude got a bigger dick than you.
Yeah.
It's the same with comics. You know if a motherfucker funnier than you. You know that comedy is a bitch, and I got the big dick.
So for all the comics out there, right? So it's a lot of comics now, especially
13,660.
Well, it's probably 13,680 now because in San Antonio, every time I look up, somebody is doing comedy. And I think comedy does help with mental illness.
Right.
It does help with, certain types of depression. But there is a business to this. And comedy ain't for everybody. Just like rapping ain't for everybody. What can you tell up and coming comics or anybody that's thinking about getting into this game? What can you tell them?
All right, so I'll use this example. So when I came up from River Center, there were two white comics, Matt Golightly, John Stringer. They were able to elevate and get on that platform and tour.
Okay.
Consistently.
Okay.
Since the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
Right? They're headliners. So they're doing those 312 shows. They're doing cruises. They're always booked, right? On average, on the low end, those guys are probably making $500 a show. $500 a show for 6 shows is $3,000. 3,000 times 4 is 12,000. 144. Those guys are making probably $156,000 a year.
7 minutes. For 7 minutes.
No, they're doing hours. They're doing hours. These are your
headliners.
These are your headliners.
Wow.
So to me, that's the benchmark.
Right.
These guys are doing it. This is all they do. They ain't got no day gig. They ain't got no insurance because there ain't no benefits coming with comedy.
Like Cat Williams.
Yeah.
They specials.
They ain't doing no specials. They're just on. They're just touring in A clubs.
Cat Williams do 100. See,
that's different. We're not talking about. That's a different level of comedy. We're talking about regular comics.
Okay.
We're talking about guys that are in the Laugh Out Loud and other A-room comedy clubs across the country.
So you mentioned Upstage, right? Which Bobby.
Yes.
And like I said, he's gonna be on here in a couple of weeks. Black man owning the comedy club. That gotta be something to really clap your hands about. You know what I'm saying? Because
it is,
especially in San Antonio.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? And to have a black man owning a night comedy club and open up the platforms. You had mentioned something about that. Have you ever performed there?
Great question. So first of all, I'm never going to say anything negative about another comic, right? And I mean, you break it down, like Bobby's mom, shout out to Miss Peggy Smith. She used to sit 2 seats from me in the choir church.
Oh, y'all was church members?
Yes, we still are. We still are. And so I've been on a lot of shows with Bobby. I put Bobby on shows. Bobby's put me on shows. I'm not sure where the disconnect happened.
You think it's a disconnect?
Well, when he was opening his club, I went out to meet with him. I had this room, Midtown, that was closing on the east side because the owner Jesse had passed and his daughter Lulu wasn't going to continue. So I was looking to do my Sunday spot somewhere. I was like, okay, this would be a great spot. I went and met with Bobby and we talked about numbers and we talked about contract and I never heard back. And this was in 2021.
Does he know? Does
he
know you've been trying to reach him?
Well, a couple of times I went to the club. I went there with a couple of other comedians. Went there with my wife a couple of times.
Uptown?
Yeah. Upstage.
Upstage.
Went to speak with him. He said he'd speak with me. 5 minutes later, somebody came and told me he won't speak with me. So I don't know if it's something I did. I really don't know. And
yeah, because that's kind of weird because he doesn't really take me as a person like that. I'm gonna assume it's probably a miscommunication. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give him a benefit of the doubt and say that.
I would say it's a miscommunication as well. However, if I'm at your club and I ask to speak with you and I know the club is not jam packed and busy, and you said okay,
he said okay,
okay,
cool.
Then you can come to me and say whatever we gotta say.
Yeah.
So I don't know, no communication to me is disrespect.
Yeah.
Miscommunication is not. But here's the thing. Good news is somebody from the club reached out to me today.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh, well, good. So this probably will give y'all a chance to really kind of iron things out and say, hey, man, I've been trying to get at you. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you've been busy or whatever. Maybe this could be our chance to kind of
just... Well, the thing is, there's probably been about 7 opportunities that I had for Bobby.
Wow. Did you present him to him?
I couldn't because he wouldn't call me back.
Bobby, holla at this man, bro. Like, I'm going to say this to all the comics out here. Man, all of y'all are funny. I think y'all are doing great work out here. Comedy is very subjective. We talked about this other day. What one comic may not think is funny, 100 other people may think it's funny. But with you, I really enjoy the fact that you came in here and told your story and really spoke about, you know, comedy at heart and just the business of comedy. Because that's what we need right now in this city, is that we need the veterans of the game and the people that know this game to really educate comics. With you, and then also we had the platform last year. But I'm really impressed by the 6 degrees of separation we got, because I didn't know you was doing all this stuff here. I didn't know you was that connected to these comics. And for you to be a church member with one of the comics' mom, I think that could really open up the door for you two guys to really talk things out. I really want the comedy scene here to be the best. So I'm gonna always promote the positive.
And for me, it's, you know, here's the thing, man. You know, everybody's jockeying for position, but everybody's in a position of desperation. Right?
How do we get out of that desperation?
The only way to get out of that desperation is realize everybody's going to win individually, regardless.
Right.
You know, when we did that DVD, we were the underbosses of comedy. You know, and then, you know, Debo and his team, man, shout out to Debo. I've seen Debo grow so much over the last 4 or 5 years. Like I said, when I go to these guys' show, I say, what's up? What y'all want to drink? Get them a drink, get them a round of drinks, and I get out of the way.
Are you still at Midtown?
No, I don't know. Midtown's only doing something on Wednesday night on an R&B thing, so I don't have a room anymore. But I got my vetted comedy series that we're working on. Just need a place to put it at. So maybe this thing that Upstage called me early today, maybe that'll develop into something. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think that would be good, especially with a black man owning his own comedy place, and really, like, that's how I look at it. I try to look at the positive in everything. And I saw Bobby's like climb, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to see him in the position now, and just the comics, because I've attended a couple of shows up there. I see my brother up there actually. But to have a black man in that space, and then have so many black men doing comedy in San Antonio,
Right.
and now this platform for people who didn't know about comedy to be exposed to what y'all doing, I think this is a huge blessing that, you know, I think it's going to turn into something great, man. It's just a matter of everybody sitting down at the table and really just ironing out.
Well, here's the thing. When your brother said what he said, I reached out to the general. I called Debo.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't recognize my number, right? But I think this was something only generals are going to understand.
Exactly.
Debo's a general. I'm a general, so I reached out to him.
You don't think Alvin in general?
I would say I'm gonna go back to what I talked about with the equity on stage.
Okay.
That matters.
Okay.
It really does matter.
Okay.
If you just a field goal kicker,
Okay.
you just kick field goals. If you're
the quarterback.
you're the quarterback,
Right.
right? And Debo is the quarterback.
Okay.
You know, he is. Quasi's a hell of a receiver. Quasi is gonna be doing crazy. I mean, just crazy. He's like a tall Sammy Davis Jr. He told me, I didn't really say it to him. I've been wanting to tell him that if he put some Sammy Davis in his act, he'd be the shit, man. But I mean, I think that dude is super talented, but he's got that charisma.
Right.
He got the. I know for a fact, bitches want to fuck him.
Right.
I know that.
So Alvin the kicker
I didn't say that.
what's his position if this is football?
I didn't
If
say
Debo's quarterback, Quasi's the wide receiver, what position is Alvin?
Whatever position he wants to be.
Okay. All right.
Whatever position he wants to be.
Okay.
I think he's got tremendous talent.
Not the starting running back?
I think he's got tremendous talent.
Okay.
I think
Practice squad.
I think he is. I think he knows his niche.
Mm-hmm.
As he continues to develop that niche and broaden his horizons past San Antonio and past the East Side, he's gonna be a phenomenal thing to work to be in fear of. He really is.
So what advice do you have for any up and coming comics?
Right. How much time we got left?
We got a couple minutes.
Okay. Because, like I said, I wrote one joke. This is the biggest joke I wrote this year. I want you to say it.
All right.
I'm going to give you this book.
All right.
I want you to look in that camera. I I want you to say this joke. I want you to have your stage presence. I want you, because you said up and coming comics. So I want you to have your stage presence. I want you to say this joke with veracity. I want you to say it like you mean it. I'm going to give you this book. You say this joke exactly as written. Look in the camera.
Alvin Perry. Ta-damn. Is that it? What is it?
Ta-da!
Ta-da. Oh.
Do it again.
Alvin Perry. Ta-da.
That's the biggest joke I got.
What
does it mean?
Yeah.
It means that I can sit here on your podcast and not mention somebody's name.
Yeah.
And have his brother call him a joke.
Wow. He got you.
Got you, bitch!
Look. Everything that was said tonight, it's all out of love. I want people to understand that, again, we are promoting comedy. Anything that you heard tonight is in the art of comedy. We don't promote negativity on here, but we do provide a platform for people to speak their mind. I want to thank my guests for coming on and giving so much insight to his starting comedy, how he got to San Antonio, the people he got connected with, the things that he feels about the comedy game, and the things that, you know, he think that will help prepare the comedy game forward. Before we go, I got one more last question for him because he got me on the joke. Some people know. Are you really Wesley Snipes' brother?
So here's the thing about family business, right? We don't discuss it.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, this is the only comedy platform for people in San Antonio and people in Texas. This is the Funny Business Podcast starring Walter Perry, and we out. Suit up.
Peace to the Saints.